Here we are, the sit down. Welcome, guys. I'm Segers. I hope you guys know that by now. What, we 18 episodes into this now, so it's absolutely fantastic that, the growth that we've been on, the journey that we've been on, and hopefully you guys have enjoyed the journey as well. If you look at our first episode with, I think it was with Anella, about sort of the Black Lives Matter movement and race and that sort of thing, from where we've come from there to our last episode with with Ben Brooks Dutton speaking about his wife and his loss and his story of grief. It's just amazing. 6,000 of you have joined us now. Big thanks to Goldbridge and Jack mate for that. Obviously, I wouldn't be able to do it without them. But just every guest that's come along the way and all you guys that have been watching as well. Thank you so much. This, as you can tell, is a bit of a different episode. It's going to be an episode where I just speak to you guys, answer a few of your questions and some questions that I've sort of thought you guys might want to know about me. In the last episode that we did of this, I think it was episode 8 or 9, the one that we did after Goldbridge, my girlfriend was behind the camera, but because of COVID and because of that sort of thing, she can't actually be here. So we have got my trusted friend, a friend of Megan's actually, but I'd like to call her my friend as well. She's called Finn Sales, an absolutely wonderful lady. She's going to be asking me the questions today. She's actually also going to be operating the cameras, which will hopefully be good, because this is actually going to go out before the one that I'm going to talk about now. But in the last episode, for me, the one that's going out the next episode for you, the focus was all off, the shots were out of place, it was an absolute nightmare, and that's because I've come home for Christmas, hence the different set, and so I got my mum to record the episode for me. When trying to explain focus to her, she told me after the fact that her eyes are blurry and she can't see focus anyway, so it was a little bit of a nightmare, but hopefully you guys enjoy the episode regardless, so that will be going out in sort of the next 2 weeks. But anyway, let's get straight into the questions. Enough waffling about. Finn, if you'd like to ask your first question.
So, how have you been?
How have I been? Thank you. I've been well, thank you. How are you? I've been well, thank you. It's obviously a difficult time at the moment. I don't want to come out of all the cliches of, it's very difficult at the moment. Not seeing human people is very difficult. It is, though, isn't it? I don't want to sound like a footballer, but it is tricky. Obviously, I'm down south at the moment. Up north where I go to university, I'm living with friends, so we've got that sort of dynamic. But down here, as much as I love my mum, I love my brother and her partner, my mum's partner, not my brother's, it's not the same, isn't it? Seeing friends is different to sort of being with your family. And although family, as I said, is nice, and it was nice for Christmas, I love Christmas, by the way. I had a great Christmas. I hope you guys all had a great Christmas and New Year as well. It's just not the same, is it? And so I think, in Tier 4, the one thing you were allowed to do is meet friends. One friend, I think it was, outside for an outside sport. And so I was playing a lot of golf, right? Going to the gym in the morning, afternoon, because I wake up in the afternoon, and then golf in the evening with a mate. But I've done my back in. I've got scoliosis anyway, right? It's basically where I've got a wonky spine. So I've got a lot of back pain through that. But this is a different thing. In my swing, I've literally just started playing. I was really enjoying it. Tubes from Soccer AM and his Golf Life channel, he got me into it, and then I watched the Masters recently, and I got well into it, right? And so I thought, I'm going to want to give it a crack, and especially with this whole COVID thing and the restrictions, it made sense to go and give it a go, and so I was absolutely loving it, playing it every day. Expensive, that tenner a pop at Tunbridge Golf Centre isn't cheap, so it was draining my money, but I was really enjoying it, and then bang, I hit a ball the other day, and I just feel my back twig a little bit, and then, I'm like, I want to keep going. I've got 120 more balls that I want to hit and hit well, which I don't do often, and then I've just ruined my back, so I'm just waiting for sort of physiotherapy and all that sort of stuff, x-rays in regards to my back in the near future when I'm back up in Manchester. That's been keeping me going. I've not been able to do that, as I said, so that's been a bit rank. And then obviously with Christmas, I had a great Christmas. I'm very grateful to have this house and the family that I do have, because it's absolutely amazing. And then New Year's as well, it was a little bit of a bummer, because obviously it's New Year's, I'm 20 years old. I'm sure many of you guys as well were planning on going out there and doing some amazing, partying or, getting pissed up with your mates or whatever. But for me, it was just sort of spent in the house. We did have a good one. We ordered Indian, played Monopoly, which is a fan favourite in the house, and, got absolutely smashed. Actually, a little funny story about that. Not funny at all, and it's not even a good story, but my brother bottled it. My 18-year-old brother, we were in the house, right, getting pissed up. We've watched Alicia Keys, a bit cringy on BBC One, but we enjoyed it anyway. Got absolutely pissed up. 2 o'clock, my brother goes, gonna have a bagel and a protein shake and go to bed, pal. I think, what's this? What you on about, mate? It's 2 o'clock. What you on about going to bed? You're 18. You've got your 20-year-old brother back who's from university, me, right? And you're packing it in at 2 o'clock going to bed. I wasn't having it whatsoever. He did go to bed in the end, and I was absolutely gutted. So what I did was I put these Beats headphones on, got a little bit of live music on. I was watching the One Love Manchester thing. Fantastic. And I was sort of not reminiscing, it's not the right word, but sort of thinking about sort of the victims of that attack, and got, you know when you're pissed, you get emotional anyway, right? So I was watching that live music. Angels came on for Robert Williams. What an absolute... I was getting a Little Mix come on. I was loving that, right? So, yeah, it was a good... And I just stayed up until about 5:30 a.m. Got absolutely pissed up. So that was my New Year's. I hope you guys had a New Year's as well. What am I on about? We're 5 minutes into this and I've talked about my back in New Year's. Rank. Anyway, Finn, next question.
What did you make of 2020?
What do I make of 2020? Bit shit, wasn't it? It wasn't a good year, was it? It wasn't a good year, but, you know, highlights and lowlights, that's what I want to talk about 2020-wise. You know, highlights, I think, getting Jack on the podcast, on the show. Well, starting the show in itself was a highlight of 2020, because, you know, as I've said in the last one of these episodes, I've always talked about doing YouTube. I've always done YouTube here and there, bits and bobs, but I've never fully committed to it, and this is the first time that I've really given it a go, and I think although 6,000 subscribers isn't a lot in sort of the space of 5-6 months, I'm quite happy with it, and Jack was sort of a huge moment in that. I would say Goldbridge, but I knew Goldbridge already. I worked for Goldbridge. You know, it wasn't a huge achievement to get him on, although the views were amazing and the subscribers that came with that were amazing. Getting him on wasn't the achievement, because it was kind of like, I've got Goldbridge. I know this guy. You know, it's like getting your dad on, sort of thing. Even though Goldbridge is not my dad, you know what I mean, right? But when Jack came on, that was the first time where I thought, oh my god, this might go somewhere here. Because we'd had Tosh on before, we'd had Leslie Morgan-Steiner on before. You know, Neil Woods, Anella, Crystal Versace. We had loads of people on, right? And getting them on was fantastic. And I was very appreciative of all those people that had come on. And I'm sure if the show was bad, they wouldn't have come on. But Jack, you know, I had 4,000 subscribers when he come on. He had 1.4 million, right? So the fact that I dropped him an email and he's like, yeah, I'll come on, was just unreal. And then how he treated me from that moment on, you know, coming on in itself was amazing. It was just greatly appreciated. I emailed him the next day. That night, it was like, right, we're doing it on Friday, then on what? It was like a Wednesday. It was Wednesday. It was mental. Coming on in itself was amazing, and then just sort of being as kind as he was in the actual episode. After the episode, dropped me a follow on Twitter, talking to me on Twitter. You know, I asked him about the title of that video and how he's just helped me out immensely. And so, yeah, big up Jack, and obviously then Robbie after that as well. But yeah, absolutely fantastic to have you on, mate, and you know, ever grateful for what you've done for me and the channel. So I'd say that was a big highlight of my year. Christmas, I really enjoyed Christmas. That was good. Yeah, and just starting up the show. Low lights, the obvious, COVID, not being able to go out and see your friends, being locked in. To be fair, COVID-19, lockdown 1, I thoroughly enjoyed. It sounds a bit rank. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Bit of time off uni, right? I'm sat here losing 13 kilograms. I'm enjoying that. I'm not having to cook for myself because I'm not at uni. I'm not having to do grocery shopping. Me and my brother razzing around in his car looking for toilet roll. I enjoyed it. It was summer. A good laugh, right? But then, right now, it's all just become a little... And I understand, by the way, it wasn't a good laugh for everyone. People were dying, people on their own. I am in a very privileged position in being in a house like this, having all my family around me and things like that. You know, and it wasn't like that for everyone, and I completely understand that. But for myself, my personal experience, really enjoyed it. Since then, though, it's become a little bit of a slog, isn't it? We had that little period in the summer, sort of July time, when I went back up to uni, moved into my flat with my two mates. Great laugh, because first of all, you start house drinking, right? You start drinking in the old house, and I'd finished my cut, finished my weight loss, so I was happy about that. Then the pubs reopened. You're thinking, brilliant. Then that second lockdown hits, doesn't it? Sort of November to December, which was rank. Now we're basically all back in tier 4, rank, right? And so, yeah, difficult to enjoy yourself at the moment. But I think within that, a big thing was, and still is, not seeing my dad. Again, completely understand the fact that, you know, my dad's had COVID, so have I, but we're both living, we're both healthy, and so I'm very grateful to have no one, you know, directly affected health-wise due to COVID. But I've not seen him in a year, almost a year. Not seen him since February, and that's been difficult because obviously we went into lockdown in March, and we used to see each other every 1 or 2 months, and so, you know, February, probably see each other again in April, maybe April, May. February, March come, bang, lockdown. I've not been able to see him since, and so I have times where I do really miss him. And so that's it's the longest I think I've ever gone without seeing him. So that's been a tricky part of this year. Yeah. Next question, Finn.
What are the 3 main things you want to achieve in 2021?
3 main things I want to achieve in 2021. I think, first of all, YouTube. I mean, that, this is what we're doing now, and this is what I really want to get going. We started in, I think, June, of 2020. By the end December 2021, we're on 6,000 subscribers now. I think if we get to 25,000 subscribers, which is basically sort of the growth that we've had now and a bit more, would be bloody brilliant. Of course, the ambitions are to go way beyond that as well. But one thing that I have learned is to set yourself realistic targets, right? And so if we end up getting bloody Marcus Rashford and Donald Trump on, I'd want us to get to 1 million subscribers, you know what I mean? But, we're just going to keep going along like we are. And so 30,000 subscribers would be absolutely fantastic. Keep doing these shows. Ultimately, alongside that, I'd love for the sit down to become once a week, or at least put out a video once a week, so that we can, just increase the consistency. As I said, once every 2 weeks at the moment, it's fine. It's what I can deal with, it being a guest-based podcast. But I'd really love it to step up to 1 a week so you guys can get weekly content from me. And then also, I want the episodes to become in person. That obviously then aligns with the COVID restrictions. But I'd absolutely love the episodes to become in person, so you can properly get that humanistic interaction, proper conversation, because I just don't feel like via a video call sometimes it's difficult to really have a conversation. And, you guys will know this from all the Zoom calls that you guys have done over the sort of COVID period. It can sometimes get a little bit like, sorry, say that again. No, after you. Do you know what I mean? It can get a little bit like that. And so it's a little bit difficult sometimes. It's not so much a back and forth, although I did have that sort of with Jack, just because we're just 2 lads bantering. Nah. But oftentimes it's sort of, Sander asks a question, guest answers. Sander asks a question, guest answers. And I think when you're in real life, you can have a little bit more of a back and forth. And so that'd be fantastic. And also, just keep the gym up, to be fair. I've let it go. I mean, the key with gym is consistency. And I talked about this in my last one. And if you guys want to know how I lost the weight I did, check the last video out. As I said, it'll be in the description. But keep that going up, because I've let it slide, especially now with my back. I sort of let it go out the window a little bit. So, yeah. Keep that going and start sort of really kicking on in regards to that. And then as well, all my life, as I keep saying, I can't get away from it. I'm very privileged, right? And this is not me saying that to be like, oh, fucking look at me, I'm privileged. Nah, it's like me trying to realise my situation, And so for most of my life, and I think kids are like this in general, right? Because you're not going out and working yourself, but you sponge off your parents, right? And my parents have given me so much, and I'm getting to the point now in my life. I'm 20 years old, and I'm still sponging off them to an extent, or the government, student loan. Do you know what I mean? But I'm taking from others a lot, and I'd really like to get to the point where through this YouTube channel or for a job or whatever, where I can start giving back to people and start, give my mum a really nice Christmas present. I tried this year, but I'd love to. My dad's got horses and stuff, so I'd love to. I don't know, pay for a nicer stable or so. I don't, just something like that, and or take my girlfriend on holiday. Megan's films every single one of these episodes. Apart from now, she's not here. You're slacking, Megs. But yeah, give back to her. Go on holiday with her. Take her. Just make her happy. Make people around me happy. Sounds really cringy, but I mean it. I'm honest. That is what I genuinely think. So start giving back to people. Start providing for people rather than sort of taking and being that sponge, So, yeah.
All right, top 3 places you want to travel after COVID.
Top 3 places I want to after COVID. Okay, so of course we don't know when COVID is going to finish. Hopefully sooner rather than later. We've got the vaccines coming out, so hopefully they can be rolled out to as many people as possible, and that can go well, and people can get vaccinated, and we can sort of start to get away from this shit. But yeah, I'm not a huge traveller, to be fair. I'm not. You hear a lot of young people, and travel's a huge thing that they want to do. For me, because I've and that's great. Megan's like that. My girlfriend, she loves the idea of traveling, and she's going to travel, and that's brilliant for her. But for me, because I've had my mind set on becoming a presenter, or at least pursuing this whole YouTube thing or entertainment or whatever, I kind of know what I want to do. going traveling feels like a little bit of a hindrance to that. It's gonna take my mind off that. It's gonna inhibit me from being able to record episodes of this sit down, from me being able to go and do an apprenticeship somewhere or something like that, and so I don't want to take away from my career. I'm very career driven at this moment in time, and that's ultimately why I've started this, because one, I enjoy it, but two, when I don't feel productive, my head spins, and mental health just goes through the floor. And that is why I do this, because I love the idea of doing something positive in my life and creating something that you guys will enjoy. And again, as I said, I do enjoy it. So the idea of traveling takes away from that slightly. But traveling, if I was to travel, I have traveled. I've moved to Spain for 2 years. I think we're going to talk about that later, but I moved to Spain for 2 years, so I have travelled, and I don't hate the idea of it. But if I were to travel to 3 places after COVID, one would be to Spain to see my dad. So not to get deep about it, but miss my old man, and I like Madrid. I know, actually, Finn, you've been to Madrid. You quite like Madrid. You lived in Spain for a little bit as well, did you? Whereabouts was that? I'm going to act like I know where that is. But yeah, go to Madrid, see the old man, and get on the piss over there, really. Where else would I like to go? Probably Amsterdam, or just at least see my grandma as well, because my family are over there in Holland. And then Austria as well, to be fair. I love skiing. Again, privilege. But I love skiing. I've not been in, 7 years, I think. So, since the money dried up, since the recession. Not been in a while. Would absolutely love to go. And I would love to take Megan skiing as well. Again, my girlfriend. She's been once, pissed about for the whole week, and didn't really get much out of it. So I think we're going to go to a dry ski slope. Her present to me, her Christmas present for me. Not dry ski slope, sorry. An indoor ski slope. Get her to learn a little bit. I'll just get on the slopes and tear her up. That's what I do. And then hopefully we can go to Austria or France or somewhere like that. Even Spain, you can ski like an hour from Madrid. So go skiing with Megan would be brilliant. But as I said, that's expensive, isn't it? So we'll have to wait and see.
Right, what is the biggest risk you have taken, and did it pay off?
I live such a cushy little life, Finn. I live such a cushy little life where I've never had to take many risks. I've not had to, give it, put it all on the line, and I've never had to provide for my family like young people do. I've never had to do anything like that, and so I've never had to take huge risks in that sense, and I'm grateful for that. Again, I sound like a broken record, but I am very grateful for that. But I think the biggest risk that I have taken relative to me, and I think it is a fairly big risk for other people as well, or would be, is moving to Spain. I was 16 years old. I had to move school anyway. I went to private school, again, very very lucky, and that was very expensive, and so that couldn't be afforded anymore, and so I had to move. And then I was going to move to a grammar school in this area, but my dad had moved to Spain 5 years ago, 5-6 years ago now, 3 years before that point, I think, or maybe 1 or 2 years. And he was, even when he went, he was like, "Oh, you should come over, you can live with me, Of course, he wants to see me, he wants to be with me, right? But I was always like, nah, I'm not going to do it, mate. I'm not going to do it. Why? It's so inconceivable. My life is here. I actually remember listening to it. I think that's how sad this is. I remember saying to him, yeah, but Dad, I've got a few Instagram followers now. I don't want to leave it. I'll have no one that knows who I am. And listen, do you know what I mean? He's moving to a country because I've got 800 Instagram followers. Like, cringy, isn't it? But, so then, anyway, long story short, moved. And that is a risk. That's a risk, isn't it? Because, you're moving from your friends, you're moving from your mum and your little brother, you're moving from your whole life is changing. Even things like the weather, which was actually a positive change, but the seasons are different, and they're not different. You know what I mean? They're different in the sense that your whole life is being flipped upside down. And so that was a big risk. Did it pay off? First year of that, well, I'd say it paid off total. Yeah, it did pay off. And in the first year, it was good. I was working for That's Football, the sort of sister channel to the United Stand, or so it was at the time. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Again, sacrificed going out with friends, all this sort of stuff for that, because, as I said, I'm so motivated to make this work, or make my life work, that I was happy to do that. But because I did that, I sort of isolated myself a little bit, ironically, in the times that we're in. But that ultimately came at the cost of socialisation, and also I didn't really get on with many people in the school. I'm like this in general, to be fair. I get on with everyone, but I never make really strong bonds with people until I do, and then it's one or two people, and then I'm like, inseparable from them. So I struggled a little bit in the first year. Most of the people that I went to school with spoke English in the school, but when they left the school, they spoke Spanish, right? And so in the school, I was like, bantering, loving life, went out of school, go for a couple of drinks with them or whatever, and they're all chatting in Spanish. So it was difficult for me to join in. And how long are we in? 20 minutes into this video, and you can see I can talk. It's not difficult, So that was a struggle. But then in the second year, I joined a football team, five-a-side in the English League. Big up Dutch Gold. All the lads there. And it was fantastic. It was absolutely fantastic. It would be my highlight of my week, and I'd stopped That's Football at this point as well. Highlight of my week: going to Dutch Gold, going to the pitches, to the courts, playing football, and then getting on the piss for that day and just getting absolutely wanky, just getting absolutely off it for the old day. I wasn't actually drinking beer at the time, I remember. I drink beer now, but back then I didn't like it, and so I was just like caning the rum and cokes, like just get them down me. I'd walk in and the woman behind the bar would go, "Oh, roncola," like brilliant, this sort of thing. So yeah, I absolutely loved it, and ultimately, I think it broadened my horizon. I don't know if you can say that. Broadened my horizons. Like, it really allowed me to sort of. It's not the ordinary thing for a 16-year-old to do, and so in that sense, it allowed me to see a different part of the world and become slightly more open to the idea of change. And since then, I've gone there and then I've come back and I've gone back to Manchester and all this sort of stuff. And now change, especially when going to uni, wasn't a huge thing in my life. I'm kind of used to it now. Whereas when a lot of people go to uni for the first time, it's a big shock to the system because you've lived in the same house or same area for 10, 12, 13, 14, 16 years, 18 years of your life. So to then change and have that, flipped on its head, it can be difficult for people. Cooking can be difficult for people. Doing your own laundry can be difficult for people. I lived with my old man, but I had to do all those things anyway because he just wouldn't take any shit, sort of thing. So, I think it did pay off, and I'm very grateful. And now I've got that link, and
Are you still working with the United Stand?
Big question, this, Finn. Honestly. Put out anything on Twitter, anything on YouTube, comments, United Stand, where are you at, mate? Twitter, Twitter, I said, ask me questions. What questions would you like to know about me? Are you still working in the United Stand, mate? What's going on? People make an assumption he's been kicked off, he's left because they're this. First of all, I'm not working with the United Stand anymore. Where do I go from here? No, I'm not working with the United Stand anymore. And why? I've been involved with the United Stand for three years, maybe 4 years. And I loved it. I always loved it. I was very passionate about football and absolutely loved it. But I got to the point where United were playing badly. COVID wasn't a thing. COVID was a thing, so there was no fans in stadiums. You don't get that feel for it anymore. You couldn't go anymore. And also, I was watching the games with a level of anxiety, nothing huge, but a little bit of anxiety of like, I've got to really analyse this game here because I've got to talk about it really seriously after the game. And what if I don't know? What if I don't? Who's the man of the match? And it was stressing me out, and I couldn't just sit back, crack a can open and enjoy the game with mates. And ultimately, that's what I love about football. Now, you could then say, well, you never get a job in football then, mate. Maybe not. Maybe it's not for me. I'm still figuring out what I want to do. And I just wasn't enjoying it anymore. I wasn't enjoying football in the way I had before. I was enjoying football to watch, but I wasn't enjoying football to talk about, to discuss, to argue. And it becomes so toxic, the football Twitter, the football community. And it just wasn't interested in doing it anymore. So, but listen, me, Mark, Drawty Devil, Flex, KG, Sophie, Kev, I don't really speak to Kev, but Alex, everyone, Ryan from behind the scenes, Nora, I could go on. I really could go on. Everyone. I have such a respect for the team. What you guys don't see is just a huge amount of work that goes in behind the scenes. I always say this, every time I hit a milestone, 4, 5, 6,000 subscribers, whatever, I always thank Goldbridge, Drawty, and now Jack, because without those guys, I wouldn't be where I am, and especially Goldbridge and Drawty, they picked me up they didn't pick me up, that sounds dodgy, but I called into the show, to the Skype show, when I was 16, the channel was in 40,000 subscribers, we just lost 4-0 to Chelsea, I was fuming, and from there, they'd always, try to give me opportunities. And so I'm so grateful for that. I really am. And so absolutely no bad blood. From my end, I'm never ruling out going back or doing stuff in football again or anything like that. Just at the moment, I just sort of needed a little bit of time where I can go, hang on, I'm going to just step back from this for the moment because I'm not enjoying it. And let's say in a year's, 2 years' time, from my end, I might be interested in doing it again. And I know that's not how it works. You can't have your cake and eat it, pick and choose. But if Goldbridge and Drawty are willing to have me back on at that point, if that point ever comes, then I'd be more than happy to come on and go back. And just the main point out of that is big respect for Drawty and Goldbridge. No bad blood whatsoever, and hopefully we can all, work together in the future again one day. But I wish the United Stand and everyone that watches it and everyone that works on it all the greatest success in the future, because what they're doing is unbelievable. 900,000 subscribers now, upwards of that, and so good luck towards 1 million. I'm going to be supporting it. I do watch the videos every now and again, and so hopefully that answers your questions. No rift between us, but yeah, I'm no longer working on the United Stand.
Do you have any insecurities?
Insecurity. This is actually interesting, talking too much, which is ironic, right? But I remember one time, I think Lawrence McKenna from the True Geordie podcast and everything that, the kickoff and everything that sort of True Geordie Entertainment, that company. I remember him once saying he's very aware of how irritating he is, and I really related to that because Finn's nodding her head behind the camera. Oh, you're like that as well. I'm very conscious of that, and I can talk for days. I can entertain, or so I think. I can hold a conversation, but sometimes I do it too much. Now, the aim of this video is for me to do that, right? So I'm not really kicking myself about it here, but I am conscious that I talk too much. And my friend Mateo from when I was in Spain said to me once, "Shut up, just shut up." And we were really good friends, so he was entitled to say this, and I had agreed with him. But he said, when you come down for breakfast after a night's sleep, and your little sister or your little brother is there going, "Oh, I had a dream where two unicorns," and you think, gee, this is so boring. But to them, it's really interesting. They're really interested in their own stuff, but to everyone else, it's boring. And it clicked then for me, it is boring talking about yourself or listening to someone talk about themselves. I don't know why you're watching this. So I made a decision at that point to start asking questions, start asking people about things, because people love talking about themselves. Be a bit quieter, observe a little bit more, listen, and start asking questions. Well, what do you think of this? How was your day? Rather than going, "Hi, I've had a really shit day today." No one cares, mate. Ask them. And so that's a bit of an insecurity of mine. Just everything that I've just talked about there, just sort of being too selfish in conversation, talking too much. And so, I guess out of that, this has been born, right? Asking questions. I mean, this is literally the opposite of that. But in the main, the sit down is me asking questions and trying to find out things about people. And so, thanks, Mateo. The sit down's all yours. So, I think that's an insecurity. Physically, obviously, you've got, as I said to you earlier, I've got a scoliosis, so I don't know if you can see it. My shoulders are a bit wonky, and I've got a wonky spine, and I've got a big forehead, and I've got a big nose, and all this sort of stuff. But I'm not one to complain. I think I've got it fine. There's a lot of people that have deformities and things like that, so I can't necessarily complain about my nose and it fucking sticks out there a little bit or whatever. Do you know what I mean? So, but yeah, they're my insecurities physically, but personality-wise, talking too much. Also, I'm fucking chewing your ear off. But then again, what are you supposed to expect of a video that's sort of me talking to the camera? Also, not being, I don't know if this is insecurity or a fear, not being successful. I'm very driven to be successful, and the idea that I won't be successful and that I will be homeless. I have fears that I'm going to be homeless and that I'm going to be a no one, working on the corner shop, and that's fine for that person, and there's nothing against that. And some people, that's the only way they can get a job and feed their family, and I understand that. But for me, I have aspirations, and I'm sure they do. Anyway, I don't have to keep sort of apologising for myself. I have aspirations to go on and really be successful. And so when an episode of The Sit Down doesn't come out, or when next week's one is out of focus or something like that, I constantly think that that's a hindrance to my future success, and I get stressed out about it, and I'm so scared that I'm not going to be successful, which is why it was a huge thing to leave the United Stand, but I just felt like it's something I had to do, because obviously United Stand, a lot of you watch this because the United Stand, and but not being successful was a bit of a fear, a bit of an insecurity of mine, so.
Do you want children? If so, what gender and when?
Do I want children? Yeah, I'd love to have children. Absolutely love to have children. I think I've been my girlfriend 4 years now, so Megan next year, if that's all right. No, listen, I can see myself being with Megan for sort of the rest of my life. That sounds cringy, doesn't it? Because you're 20, but I do. I've been together 4 years, or coming up to 3.5 years, and I'd love to have babies with Miss Matthews. So I'd love to have kids. What gender? It doesn't matter. I think I'd be a good dad without sounding big-headed. I think I'd be a good dad. I'm good with kids. I can play that sort of kids entertainer quite well. So, Megs, if you just deal with all the shit, and then I'll just sort of entertain him and then just give him back. Nah, I know that's not how it's going to work. But, when, realistically, probably around, if I'm still with Megan in another 5 years' time and I'm 25 and we've been, and I'm really successful and whatever, then. But if I'm still on the grind and I still need to make things work and it's just not the right time, then maybe not. But listen, the ideal thing is like, just 29, 30. That's sort of the typical thing, isn't it? I think also you sort of you look at your parents and do what your parents do. My parents were like 30 and 32. My mum's actually older than my dad, which isn't necessarily a normal thing. But so around then, I think. But you never know. If I've got shit licked, like if I've got things good and I can provide, and with Megan and why not? I think probably we'll have a dog first, and then go for the babies.
Has there been a particular eye-opening moment in your life?
Eye-opening moment in my life? Not particularly, to be fair. Like, I sound like a broken record. I really do, but I've lived a very privileged life, and so similarly to the risk thing, I've never really had to struggle, so I guess eye-opening moments can come out of that. But I think every podcast that I do, so for example, the first episode, Anella. If you guys haven't seen that, go and make sure you check that out. But it was, he was a man. If you can't be asked, he is a man who comes from South Africa. He worked at my school. In his sort of gap year, but he came from an African village, a rural African village, where if you think of that bad stereotype of Africa and an African village, you think poverty and all that sort of stuff. Although there is much more to it. If you do think of that, that's where he lived. No running water, no electricity, that sort of stuff. And so for him to be where he is now, fluent in English and just to see his development from where he came from, was amazing. And especially growing up with apartheid and that sort of thing, with the segregation of white and black people over in South Africa, just hearing his story was just fascinating. And it was around the time that George Floyd got murdered and all that sort of stuff just opened my eyes even more, and but every episode that I do with that do like that is serious. So the one with Leslie Morgan Steiner, unbelievable. Victim of domestic abuse for I think she lived with him 4 years in marriage, and hit her 5 days before her wedding day, and I don't even want to tell her story because it's not really my place to tell. If you are interested in that, go and check that out. But speaking to people like that, it fascinates me, and it really does open my eyes, to be fair. Neil Woods as well. He was an undercover police officer for like 15 years and sort of said, the only thing that I did was made the lives of problematic heroin users worse. I never did any good in my career. And although I'd say that I might dispute that, it is fascinating to see his outlook on addiction and drugs, and how he talks so openly about his former misconception of drug addicts and addicts in general, how they're just making bad decisions, aren't they? They're just making bad decisions and it's their fault, when he's come to realise that it's not. And I'll be honest, I had that misconception as well. Listen, I've got addiction in the family, right? So I know, maybe slightly more than others, again, not first hand, but sort of second hand, that it isn't necessarily that. But, naturally, you have thoughts sometimes where you think, yeah, but is that their fault? But hearing Neil talk about it, and Mike Malak off the Impulsive show as well, talking about how addiction's a disease and stuff like that, really did open my eyes and does still. And so, yeah, I think I'm rambling, but every episode of the Sit Down where I've spoken to someone who's had a serious life story, fascinates me. Of course, learning about Jack's meal deals is absolutely fantastic as well. So that was I'd say that Jack's meal deal was eye-opening for me. But yeah, there you go. Out of questions. Is that it? Well, how long has this been? 36 minutes? Hope you guys have enjoyed the show. What do I want? My final closing words. What do I want to say? Stay tuned. We're going to have guests coming on every 2 weeks. As I said, I really appreciate all your support. It is, as I said, greatly appreciated. And so hopefully we can keep building, keep doing well, and keep creating a community. Let me know what you guys think of this sort of show. I could step the sort of rate of these shows, the frequency of these shows up in the future if you'd like. I think this is 12 weeks in between this one and the last one. But if you want, maybe even more than that, I don't know, 16 weeks I think it was. But if you want these more regularly, I can easily do these more regularly. I think a good idea that I literally came up with 10 minutes before the show, recording this, was maybe getting you guys, a select few of you, to send in videos of your questions, just so that you guys can get involved as well, and so we can, rather than have Finn or Megan asking the questions, although you have done a great job, Finn, we can have you guys asking the questions. So I think that's a good shout. What do you guys think of that? What do you guys think of these sorts of episodes? And yeah, I think I'm out. I think I'm out of things to say, which doesn't happen too often, but I hope you guys have enjoyed the show. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment, and let me know what you think, and we'll see you guys in the next episode. Appreciate you all. Ta-da.